What is up, people? Dunna here, and today we're going to be talking about how to create light trail photography using long exposures. And today I'm going to show you exactly what I did to shoot this photo so that you can go and recreate that look for yourself. Shutter speed may be a simple concept, but the things that you can do if you truly understand how to utilize shutter speed are anything but basic. But first, the basics. In photography, your shutter speed is one of the three pillars of the exposure triangle. That means that we use shutter speed in conjunction with ISO and aperture to dial in how much light is coming into the camera so that we can properly set our exposure. The slower the shutter speed, the more light we're going to be letting into the camera and the brighter the picture. Essentially what's happening is you're opening the shutter for a certain amount of time and then closing it again. The longer that shutter is open, the more light gets in. For example, a shutter speed of 1/200th of a second is going to be a darker image than 1/50th of a second. But if you're shooting a moving subject, the shutter speed is also going to affect the motion blur or lack thereof in your photo. For example, at 1/200th of a second, you can basically freeze the motion of a moving car. However, at 1/50th of a second, you're going to see motion blur on the car because it's moving through the frame while the shutter is open. These are the two basic things that you need to understand about shutter speed to do long exposure photography. The longer the shutter is open, the more light you're going to let in and the more motion blur you're going to get from moving objects. Once you understand that, you can start to manipulate this in a way to get really magical results. And one of the best things about understanding long exposures is that there's so many things you can do with it. You can smooth out water in your shots. You can do astrophotography. And of course, what we're going to talk about today, light trails. Okay, so here's what you're going to need for doing light trails. You're going to need a camera that allows the use of all manual functions, and you're going to need a tripod. Optionally, you can also use an ND filter, and if you want to, you can use a shutter remote. But those aren't technically necessary, just kind of helpful in certain situations. Let's head out and get our photo. Now, I specifically chose to come out to this bridge because I knew there would be a ton of traffic underneath it, so we're gonna get a lot of headlights and taillights. Unfortunately, it's also quite loud out here, so I'm gonna try my best to make sure that you guys can hear me okay. I also chose to come out after dark because I'm gonna have the best control over the lights going through, and I'm gonna be able to open my shutter for the longest amount of time. Let's get things set up and make this happen. So the first thing that I did is I set my camera up on a tripod and I got the shot framed how I want it. I'm looking down over the freeway and there's a sign in the distance and there's this chain link in front of us, so we can kind of get this cool foreground and background thing going on. It'll give us a couple of options as far as what we can do with our focus. I've chosen to use the Sigma 30mm on this, but you can really do it with any focal length. Just be creative with how you want to frame your shot. Once I've got my camera set up and my shot composed how I want it, I'm gonna set the camera so that it's in all manual mode, and I'm also going to set a 2-second timer. By setting the 2-second timer, I'm able to hit the shutter button and then back off and be still so that I don't bump the camera at all. I've set my ISO to 100 to get the cleanest shot that I can, and while we're trying different shutter speeds to see what works best, I'm actually going to be adjusting the aperture to get proper exposure. If we set our shutter speed too quick, we won't get the full trail of light. We want to allow the cars to basically pass through the whole frame while the shutter is open. If we set it to 1/50th of a second, it'll look like this. At 1/10th of a second, it'll look like this. Now let's bump it all the way to 5 seconds and see what that looks like, because we're still not getting anywhere near enough motion blur. So 5 seconds is actually starting to look pretty cool. The cars are completely gone at this point, and we're only seeing the light trails. I think I want to put it down to about 10 seconds and see what that looks like. This is the worst part, just waiting. So I think 10 seconds looks pretty good for the right amount of motion blur in those headlights and taillights. Now you can start to mess with maybe where you're focusing. So for example, I want to get a shot where I'm actually focusing on the chain link in front of me so that everything else is blurred out, blurred bokeh light trails. Yes, I think that's very cool. Now I'm freezing out here. I really wish I would have done this tutorial in the summer, but let's go back and we'll talk about what we got. Much better. Now, every situation is going to be slightly different and you're gonna have to mess with your settings to match the situation that you're in, but understanding the basics of shutter speed is going to allow you to do some really cool things with moving light in your photography. Now I wanna see you try. I'm hosting a contest on Shutout for long exposure light trail photography. You can enter the contest using the link in the description, and you can even win money if you win this contest. Shutout is also doing their 500K giveaway, so for the first 10,000 people to enter a contest with a premium entry, they're going to get access to the Shutout Prime for life. Shutout Prime would normally cost $50 a year, and it gives you access to a whole bunch of premium features, including the ability to enter up to 5 photos in a contest, as well as you could actually start your own contests on Shutout. So if you use a premium entry for $2 in my contest or any other contest on the site, you're gonna get Shutout Prime for life. Seems like a pretty good deal to me, but there are limited spots and it ends at the end of 2018, so make sure to enter soon. As always on Shutout, if you wanna just enter for free, just for the fun of it, you can do that as well. So use the link below and go enter however you want. I'm really excited to see what you guys come up with for this long exposure light trail photography. And as always, I wanna turn it over to you. Have you ever used this technique, and do you have any suggestions for everybody watching? Leave a comment below and let's start a conversation. If you had fun or you learned something, make sure to hit that like button. It really does help. If you wanna be friends, click the circle, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell notification so you don't miss anything. If you wanna watch another video, there's one right here. I think you'll really like it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.